Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. If you are a steering committee member, you should be able to just hit the speak on stage button.
Boom.
Perfect. I've got to get the recording going in just a second.
Setting up some distinct channels for the special interest groups, and we should come out of this with a decent idea of who can be involved primarily in which conversation.
All right, we've got the recording going.
Beautiful. First Passage Marketplace, Passage Open Source Steering Committee meeting has commenced. I will pronounce the formal YOP, and we may proceed.
In
So,
case if you are a steering committee member, please ask to speak on stage so we can get you up here and we can all just chat openly.
yep, and ping us. Yeah, right. Ping us if you don't have the role yet, if you have not been assigned the role, and we'll make sure to get that to you as well.
100%. Well, let's get started. So, as we kick off, we just wanted to give, I think, a quick overview of the steering committee. So, we have a great group of folks from across some of our partners across the Cosmos ecosystem who have so generously agreed to help us and kind of kick off this initiative. We understand that this steering committee is pretty broad. And so, I think the end goal is that the Passage leadership team, like including Lex, Errol, um, myself, Ryan, our Chief Product Officer, and Mike, our Chief Technology Officer, will really help guide some of these initiatives and stay super involved. And then as we begin creating special interest groups, we'll be able to direct some of our steering committee members to be more focused in those core areas so that we have some consensus within those smaller groups and just have a more efficient way of working. But at the outset, we wanted to just get a larger group together with folks who have so much background and knowledge and things to contribute as it relates to this. You're muted. Rugged again.
It just shrugged. As we go through this roadmap, um, we'll see very clearly kind of how this lays out. And we've already started some conversations with some of the steering committee members. I talked with Max from the CloudMost team about indexer stuff, Primus, and also Joe from Apello have talked about, like, you're asking questions about indexer and things like that. So we'll I think just as we go through this conversation, it'll naturally kind of like people will sort themselves into these special interest groups, and the goal will be that the steering committee will work with the special interest groups to, where needed, assign bounties for different tasks within the indexer, special interest group, or within the front end, for front end applications for the website, things like that. So, let's jump into it. And just, I'm in if you have questions. This is a YOP zone. No need to raise your hand, but you can if you want to. So just looking at the proposed roadmap, again, there's a Google Doc linked in the council news. The big things are right now we have somebody separating the marketplace repo, so we'll be able to share that, very soon, potentially even like within the next day or two, so that everyone can kind of review the marketplace repo and see these things firsthand. That's just kind of obviously a necessary step because right now, if you go to app.passage.io/marketplace, you'll see there's all those extra buttons on the side because theoretically you can get into the social dashboard from there as well because it's one repo, a mildly monolithic repo for the Passage dashboard front end and all that. So we're separating that out so that obviously this can be we can open up that repo and anybody can get access to that.
Hey,
Same thing with
Lex,
yeah. Go ahead.
real quick to ask the dumb question, what's a repo?
There you go. So GitHub repository. So Adam is our community rep, um, and that is really helpful. So yeah, it's a GitHub repository. So this is where all the code is stored right now, and the code is mashed up with the other stuff for the front end of the Passage social dashboard, which means there's like dependencies and whatnot. It's a relatively quick process to separate those two, but that will be ready this week.
And we've just created essentially a new GitHub organization to house all of this information separate from the previous Passage GitHub. So it's under Passage Chain. Eventually, we will be inviting you all the steering committee members as contributors on that organization, and we'll be getting that populated with information on like basically best practices for contributing, and we'll be storing all of the meeting notes and things there, similar to what Akash has been doing. It's a really great, just like centralized resource hub for everything that we're working on.
So do
Yeah,
we know yet for people that have suggestions of enhancements or bugs, if they're going to have to go to the GitHub and report it there, or if they're going to be able to do it through Discord, or if it's both, and there's to be somebody on our steering committee
Mhm.
that'll be transferring them from one to another or something like that?
That's a great question. We should establish what we want the workflow to be if people have requests for additional features. I think it's fine if just for now the we have for bugs, somebody has an issue with the marketplace, they're not seeing their NFTs or things like that. People can continue to put in tickets via the ticketing system here in the Discord, and we will have to sort those into GitHub issues, which means that we can figure out open item. We can decide, how much do we want that progression? Because Greg, you had mentioned previously that how much visibility will it be into the progression of that issue if somebody isn't fluent in GitHub. So that's an optimization thing, and for now, we can have that kind of on the table. Like, is there a good way to get those issues visible in Discord via a bot or something that is user friendly? But I would say that's just something we can leave on the table for now. But bugs should be tracked through the ticketing system in Discord, and we can bring those to the steering committee and or the appropriate special interest group to address.
Yeah, I think the core question here is just how do we progress it from a discussion in Discord to a formal implementation into GitHub so that it's actively being worked on and decided where it lands in terms of priorities.
Then, okay, indexer. This is the big thing, right? So we have some issues where purchased NFTs are not appearing from the marketplace, or newly listed NFTs are not appearing in the marketplace. So not appearing in my collection or not appearing in the marketplace. And so we want to be able to obviously improve. We believe, our thesis is that some of this is rooted back to the indexer. Primus had asked if this is something that we built, and we did. We have a distinct repo for that. We can probably just, I'll review it with Mike, but I think we can probably just make that open. I don't think there's any reason not to just open that up so everybody could review it who wants to get involved in the indexer SIG. But that is, I think, a big next step. And one of the things I talked about with Max from CloudMost is that they do have a open source indexer that they built for Akash, and they are open to extending that to because right now it works with kind of your basic operations on any Cosmos chain, like sends, transfers, and things like that. But there would be some extension needed to cover the CW721 contract that we have. And so transfer of NFTs, purchase of NFTs, things like that, minting, so that the indexer can keep track of those things. I have to imagine, since it's been in operation with the Akash infrastructure, kind of battle tested, that could be a good solution. We'll open that up to conversation for the indexer special interest group, and we can start a thread on that specifically. We'll open up the repo to everybody so that you can review what we have now and make any suggestions or comments on that, so that we can kind of arrange any necessary bounties to get people involved in that process. Any questions right off the bat? I know we have a couple indexer pros in the group. This has obviously come up in a lot of our pre-game conversations because it is kind of the hairy elephant in the room for the Passage Marketplace.
Oh yeah, first just wanna say that I like the things they are doing with the card. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
uh,
Be your entertainment for the afternoon.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, so I have a couple of questions regarding the indexer. So yeah, I heard Primus mention on the private thread that the indexer now is not being managed by the Passage team. Is that right? Is it like a third party managing the?
Yeah, so we are good question. So basically, we built this out, but it is leveraging subquery in their indexing platform and framework. So we have the repo that's leveraging kind of the subquery stack, per se. And we built this out to work with the Passage Marketplace. So we have it set up. And again, we'll kind of open it up for question when we can share that, when we share that repo. Just whether or not it does make sense to either implement a new purpose-built indexer like the battle-tested indexer like the CloudMost one, or if it is going to be easier to optimize the one that we have. I do love the idea. One of the points that Max made was that if we build it, if we leverage their purpose-built indexer rather than the subquery stack, then we just have complete control over fine-tuning, right? And that creates a little bit of a maintenance burden, but I think a great benefit since they've already have it, spun up. And we can weigh the cost-benefit of that as we kind of dive further into that special interest group as well.
Oh, lovely, cool. I have another question. So yeah, but working on and improving the index, it's one of the main things that you guys need to focus on. So I guess it's the primary thing that needs to take all the attention from my point of view, because people they need to keep track of everything, like they when they get an NFT, even out of like not just tracking the events on the front end, like from the chain directly. But yeah, one thing is, I don't know if you guys like have enough people like front end developers to manage like the integrations and things. So
Yeah, it's going to be both. So we'll get into some of that stuff that is front end contingent as well. But yeah, I
yeah, 'cause-
do 100% believe that the indexer is kind of like the most important way to go, for sure.
It's good to know. I got a question. Is the indexer going to be maintained by you guys, or is also going to be offloaded as well?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the goal is that this can be something that becomes part of the open source marketplace infrastructure, right? So we will absolutely contribute to all of the different, we will have Mike or one of the developers from our team. So Nicholas is one of our developers who's currently separating the repo. He can help with some different front end stuff as well. Like Mike can help with some of the blockchain stuff, smart contracts. We have people who can contribute in each of these areas, but it will be something that we can also we will be bringing people in from the community as well. So the special interest group is going to be areas that anybody can contribute, and this is going to be something where again, depending on who's contributing and what they need, we might have different bounties associated with different tasks for that purpose. But this would be something that would be community owned, essentially, right? Because it'd be part of the open source stack for the marketplace.
Good to know. Nice. Yeah, my team is building also an indexer for Poct, which is very similar to a Cosmos SDK. So that's something that we can or adapt or just fix the issues that it's already there in your indexer. We're gonna take a look at it once it's already open source. And yeah, we are very interested in the infrastructure initiative as well.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Primus asked, does the project own the actual RPC API server infrastructure behind the indexer? It's a good question. I don't know if that is managed, if that's part of the subquery infrastructure. I feel like that probably, or maybe not, because that would be the nodes that are referencing the blockchain. So that's a good question. I think we are running our own RPC nodes, but I can get back to you on that as well.
Hey guys, want to just jump in and say that if the indexer is actually built, there's a bunch of things that we as a wallet could build on top of it. Basically, we can show all passage NFT user owns right inside Leap. That's something we already
Beautiful.
do for Stargaze and a few other things like actually sending notifications and you receive a bit for your NFT. But those are also something that we are already done with Stargaze and OnFits, and we know how to do that for passage to once the index is ready.
Beautiful. Yeah, and it would be definitely good to have feedback in terms of, you know, things that would be things external to the marketplace, like the wallet integration, that would leverage the indexer as well. That'd be a really good perspective to have. And Max just dropped the repo for the CloudMost indexer in the chat as well. Cool. And we can, one of the things that when we'll set up a chat specifically for an indexer SIG, which is just, I think, very, very clear that we'll be able to get some good people involved in that, and that is one of the key objectives here, to set up a special interest group for. I don't see any objections there. Then the thing that I owe that group is we'll set up, and you guys can help contribute to this. We'll set up a document, basically designating what are the requirements for the indexer, right? What kind of operations are we going to need to query, like transfers, and just at least define the initial set that the marketplace is already leveraging. There might be additional things in the future as we, add functionality to the marketplace, but no, what are the things that we need now? We'll put together a document for that, so that whether we're extending something like the CloudMost indexer or whatever it may be, that we have clear requirements. Cool. Next thing, a sorted fixes category in the document. So we've really prioritized the kind of usability issues on the marketplace in these first two sections. So categories and sorting is a big one. Some of these are just simple things in terms of user experience. Some of these are bordering on just bugs. Collection list needs to be more obvious. Right now, it's a cute little hamburger menu that is easily missed, and you default to the Kira collection. So there was a time period where the floor for that was just arbitrarily higher because people didn't know how to get to the Darren Fang collection as they were discovering Strange Clan. And so, even something like default sorting should be changed, so that either we're just sorting all the NFTs, or that we have some type of, list of categories or something like that at the default page for the marketplace. Then combining the pals, pucks in one collection category. Basically, right now we have a distinct, smart contract for each of these collections, and so you see a separate category in the menu for each one. But those are things that really should be sorted into kind of a front end category. We can figure out the best way to do that. And I think it probably makes sense to have a generic front end special interest group set up to discuss some of these front end tasks. I think a lot of these are going to be reasonably distinct. But I also don't think it's big enough yet that we would want to have distinct special interest groups for this. I'm open as we go through this. You guys can give feedback on that if it makes sense to have break this down into more specific groups. But combining world building kits in one category, this is another thing. It's just kind of like the front end organization. And one thing that I didn't put on here that is interesting and that we should talk about is right now we could set up combined categories for these smart contracts, right? But the that is going to be a little an arbitrary definition in the front end that these two smart contracts are part of the same category, right? And they're not distinct categories for the different NFT collections. One of the things we're going to get into, again, I don't think this is top priority. The top priority is just increasing usability, driving more volume to the marketplace, and using that to facilitate this collaboration with the community. So user experience is top priority here. But there's a world where once we have this stuff set up, how do we create less friction for people to launch a collection, right? Can we set up a dashboard for people to input the parameters, input the images, whatever it may be, even if that was if there was permissioned access, right, to that, like we had to approve a creator or send them an invite or something like that. Obviously, right now the marketplace is entirely permissioned because there's no option to contribute a collection right now. But and I do believe there will be a benefit to the community permissioning collections, at least in the short term, for really defining synergy with projects that can leverage passage functionality and things like that. But that said, you know, if we have that dashboard, we'll need a parameter like this to define, like, okay, are there multiple collections and are they going in the same category? So that could define, once this is instead of just an arbitrary, front end stipulation, if there was a connection to an input from the user side for defining a category and then putting several NFT collections in that category, we'd have to figure out how we want to do that. So just looking forward a little bit. Bringing the Strange Clan series on top in the collection list. So we can just, so that might even be adding a sorting option to the collection list. Obviously it's small right now, so it's not essential. We could just organize them by default in terms of when they were created. I think it might be alphabetical right now, but yeah, that is a good point. Uniform naming and properties list for the Strange Clan collections, Town 1, Town 2, and Eggs. Yeah, and you guys can look through some of this stuff too. This is simple stuff. Collection page, user can't use the marketplace button, the full category button. Search bar does not work, the magnifier button, and info on seller fees when listing an NFT. So just adding some stuff in there. Again, a lot of this stuff is relatively simple. And we can have, our team can help contribute on these things. I love the idea of establishing workflows with the community here so that as we're adding new things, we'll talk through some of the upgrades, that we have ways for people to build in the features that, for instance, if we have community participants who want to launch a unique collection leveraging some of the passage functionality, a key reason to have this as a community managed project is that it allows the community to build the stuff they need as well, as we've been seeing on Akash with CloudMost and the different tools that are building around the Akash infrastructure. So next is promises, Astro Pucks and Golden Pucks. These are just two collections that we would launch and airdrop to specific people based off of just some community activations in the past. And we've been kind of waiting for some of these updating these key areas of the marketplace to do those. And this could play into also, like, again, being able to set up a front end for more easily launching collections so that we can onboard more creators, right? This could play into some of those objectives as well. I will say some of our goals for this year are being able to bring new creators into Passage as we push forward with Elite. Right now we are testing with a kind of private group from the waitlist and onboarding users there. We have some people in the community who will be using this with their team or things like that. Then it's going to be easier for people to actually leverage Passage functionality. I want to also open up the marketplace and the blockchain features for people to leverage NFT collections in unique ways on the Passage platform and things like that. So the goal there would be that we can open this up for more creators as there's more stuff for them to do as well, whether that's leveraging 3D customizations in unique ways or NFT interactions inside of Passage worlds, different things like that. I want people to be able to build more easily and create the collections that they need, still open to this being permissioned, in the near term to various degrees. Before we jump into upgrades, I'll just kind of catch up on the batch mint, batch transfers. I love that. We should start a we should figure out what's the best way to document some of these things, because again, I do agree that I think there are probably a solid list of relatively low lift features that we can integrate that will improve user experience in key areas. Bids and auctions is a good one. I'll get into that in our upgrades, because there are smart contracts that we have complete that just don't have a front end or things like that. So we can talk through that in the in just a second here.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that is a point of discussion for a potential special interest group, because there are a lot of features that like a front end specific group might be able
to. That is a great point. So maybe we have a front end design special interest group, but then we can have unique groups for some of these other initiatives that are related, but not simply design specific. So for instance, NFT staking. Right now we have a kind of like general purpose NFT vault smart contract that we've built. And I don't remember, I feel like that may have also been audited as well, but I'll have to double check on that. We had a batch of the smart contracts audited, and I feel like that was part of that with Certic, but I can double check on that. Contract complete for the NFT vault, but there's two things that we would need: a front end for staking the first initiative is staking the eggs, right? That is one of the big community events that we're kind of looking forward to right now for the NFT staking. And basically we need a vault, or sorry, we need a contract that and I believe all of the I want to say that the smart contracts they're in a separate repo. I'd have to double check if they're open or not, actually. So I'll look at that. And again, when we set up these interest groups, I'll try to drop SIG specific materials to each of them so you guys can review any associated repos, requirements, and things like that as well. So then so we need a contract that defines the specific parameters for the egg staking. So minimum staking time, and what happens when the egg is unstaked, things like that. Because the vault basically gives us the criteria for locking the NFT and setting an unlock period and things like that. And again, I'd have to check to see what all specific parameters we have for that contract, but it allows us to create another smart contract that will define those specific parameters and basically set something up specifically for the eggs. So that's what we would need to do. We would need a smart contract created and then a front end for people to do that. And the mechanic there would be that people can lock up their egg with a character. They have to have the pair. And then there would be a minimum stake time. And this is, again, something that I can define some requirements for, so we can set up a group around this. And I know there are other, even like, I talked a little bit with the Owlies community about their NFT staking. So there's other people who might be able to get involved in this. But again, we'll define the requirements so it's really clear how people might contribute. But you pair those NFTs up, they get locked up together. There is a minimum amount of time that you'd have to stake it for, and then once that's complete, you can unstake it. But basically, you're going to get an NFT from the you're going to hatch an NFT from the mounts and companions collection based off of certain parameters in how long you staked it. So it has to do with how many people are still staking when you unstake. And the more people that are still staking, the less likely you get the more rare variations of the mounts and companions. So we'll put up some requirements for that. But again, I think there are some of these things that are just high priority in terms of usability. And then as we get into some of these upgrades, I think there's going to be things here that are not only big improvements on the marketplace, but also really fun community events that drive a lot of engagement and volume for the marketplace. So definitely one of the more exciting elements of this, apart from just making the whole thing a really solid user experience. Auctions and offers is another area where I believe we have a audited smart contract complete. We just don't have the front end implemented to leverage those contracts. So again, I'll make sure to provide the repo for that, and we could probably set up a a separate special interest group for each of these, for the NFT staking and auctions and offers. I think those are two clear areas for feature additions where we already have a lot of momentum. We have a lot of work complete, and just have not finished because we don't have the front end available yet. Or for the NFT staking, we do need an egg-specific smart contract. James, any questions? The next couple of things are almost in their own category because they're a little bit speculative. This gets into things that where we should start setting priority. I think everything up until this point is like, yeah, we have to do these things. These are either core improvements, part of key community initiatives like the Astro Pucks and the Golden Pucks, or it's things that we already have traction on and are very clear value adds for the community, like the NFT staking and the auctions and offers. But these things are a little subjective. So 3D NFT standards, I think this is going to be really unique because what I want to do here is be able to associate 3D data with an NFT smart contract. And I think this is huge because then we can have these assets that can be used in a decentralized way, but actually integrate directly. Instead of integrating with Passage in a permissioned way, where basically Passage says, okay, you have this NFT, you have access to this bit of data in our centralized control, right? Within the framework of the application or within any particular front end. The data will actually be part of the decentralized smart contract. That's the kind of thing that I think would be huge for our contribution to innovating in terms of NFT standards across the board. I mean, there aren't ways that people are using these things to really own assets in that way, right? And it's great to own pixels, right? In terms of a two-dimensional image, people that's obviously standard. You have your IPFS asset, right? The image associated with the contract with the NFT asset. But being able to do that in 3 dimensions, for one, we can bring both of those things into Passage, right? We can pull images from IPFS so that you can use that in world as an image on a wall or as your avatar icon. But then better yet, being able to do that with 3D data. So this is an area where it's going to be a little bit more of an open-ended conversation. And we can supply specifically on the 3D side information in terms of like what kind of information we need to populate these assets in Unreal Engine, Unity, Web, whatever it may be. Because this could be a thing where we can now have interactive 3D objects in the website, right? This could be a front end thing on the marketplace as much as it's also an integration with the Passage worlds. So it'll be an open-ended conversation. There's a lot of opportunity there. And
Hey, Lex. So when you talk about standards, are you already collaborating with other groups? I know there are different communities out there trying to work on 3D standards as far as just file type and those types of things. Or are you wanting to, I think he's back. Okay. Or are you wanting to set our own standards and then sort of hope that other people adopt our standards?
yeah, it could be a little bit of both, right? Because I think, for one, people adopt what gets used, right? So we can see what's being used. For instance, I know there are like metaverse standards, right? And there are certain file types like USDC, funnily enough, or no, sorry, it's USD. Universal Scene Description is a high level 3D asset that's interoperable with a lot of different programs. People have pretty good adoption for USD. I think Pixar uses it and stuff like that. So for trading information in between programs. But I mean, again, there are standards for. Well, we can look into that. This is kind of material that we can put some time into and try to provide a baseline of research to make some informed opinions as a community. Obviously, this is something that we have a lot of opinions about. We can pull in professionals from our 3D studio team. We have connections with a lot of people who are core contributors to the Unreal Engine marketplace, for instance. So understanding what are the standards there, because right now you can take you can go to the Unreal Engine marketplace, just Google it. You can look up Office or Convention Center or things like that, and find really beautiful level designs, virtual spaces for $50, $100 maybe, right? And if you download that, right now we can manually, but we can take that manually, connect our Unreal Engine plugin that integrates with our server infrastructure, upload that to our server. So pull our thing into Unreal, put Unreal on the server, and run that level as a Passage world within a couple hours, right? So there's already a really good synergy there because we have support for Unreal Engine, right? And a big part of it is like, yeah, a lot of these initiatives, we'll just have to be discerning in terms of like what is useful and what is arbitrary, because there are these kind of like metaverse communities and groups that have defined things, and we just have to figure out, okay, is this a metaverse thing where it's kind of looking forward, or is it actually leveraging the creator ecosystem that exists? So it'll be a balance of those things, because there's a sense in which Passage is already more integrated with the current community of Unreal Engine creators, because any Unreal Engine builder can build for Passage right now, because we just have the same standards as Unreal Engine. But all that to say, it's a wide open door. Maybe we could do both, right? We'll have options.
Sounds good.
That's a good question though, because there is a lot of stuff out there. Ready Player Me is a group that we've talked to in terms of avatar standardization for the metaverse, and I really don't think it's, even thinking about that as an example, I don't think it will necessarily be either or, because we'll integrate Ready Player Me, right? They have a 3D standard that's pretty easy to integrate with Unreal Engine, so it'll work perfectly in Passage. And as we integrate new engines, we can kind of align those standards. But we can also have our own 3D standard for assets that we develop with the community or what have you. So I think it can be both, right? And just, again, turn on all the integrations. We can accept PayPal and Stripe. Last thing, purchase NFTs in native USDC. Again, this is something where, just looking at some of the things you guys mentioned in the chat, batch transfers, bids, auctions. The bids and auctions, offers and auctions, is something that we have, and again, that's clear traction where I think that is an area we should emphasize to begin with. But then batch transfers, hosting some of the recent activity. Okay, so Gigi mentioned recent activity when looking at the NFT information page, so stuff like that. But even like how much do we want to pull in? Primus and the ZenChain Labs team have done a ton in terms of the Passage Live dashboard. How much would we want to have a Passage Live, a ZenChain featured, provided by ZenChain, a dashboard within the Passage marketplace, and provide a bounty to their team for integrating that, right? There's a bunch of things that would add value to the marketplace that now we have to prioritize, right? Now we have to figure out, and this is where we'll get feedback as to what are the things we should pull out of our backlog, and we'll start to create a backlog specifically for this, so that we can do that. We can kind of decide as a community what is important. I can tell you why I want to be able to purchase NFTs in native USDC, and it gives us a diversification of protocol owned liquidity, right? So being able to have assets. So yes, it's great when we're creating buy volume for Passage, because that secures the chain and in turn is a value add for user experience in getting into the Passage chain to participate in the marketplace, right? But at the same time, it would be beautiful to have liquidity that is owned by the protocol in USDC that diversifies our ability to either run incentives, to sponsor new features on the marketplace, and to just have options in terms of how we're managing liquidity around the Passage blockchain. So I think that's a cool feature, but this does go into the backlog list where now we have to decide as a community what we pick up next. That's all we've got for the roadmap right now, and it sounds like we'll be able to move some of these things into special interest groups. And right now, pending any additional feedback, I would say we've got indexer sig that we'll create, and people can kind of elect to participate in each of these things. We might have somebody who ends up kind of leading the conversation in each of these areas, but we'll be core contributors in every special interest group until you guys just start running amok. So we'll have the indexer special interest group, we'll have the front end design special interest group, NFT staking, auctions and offers. Is there anything I'm missing?
I think that was it for my list. So we'll
What
work
about like the did you
NFT
want to have a
standards.
special interest group for the different sorting of like the pucks, putting them into one
I think that
group,
would go into front end design.
front end? Okay, sure.
Yeah. We'll have front end design, but there will be obviously front end requirements for some of these other things as well. But specifically in terms of UX, UI on the general design side, I think it makes sense to have that its own thing.
Yeah, so in terms of action items, we'll get those things set up, the SIGs for the multiple areas that we just mentioned for the indexer, front end, NFT staking, auctions and offers. And then I will begin to get our GitHub populated. We'll post a recording of this call on YouTube and then link it in GitHub with the meeting notes and the transcript. So we'll have all that. And then I think in terms of next steps for the overall steering committee, I just wanted to come to kind of an agreement on our meeting cadence. So I'm thinking the second to last Wednesday of every month may work. It seems like this time worked for a lot of folks. So if we want to just confirm that as our next meeting, so we would be looking at late March. Let me just quickly see the calendar. We'd be looking at March 20th. for our next meeting. Otherwise, we could do the last Wednesday of every month.
Beans, you want to just put up, we'll put up like a poll on that just to get consensus. Again, not every steering committee member has to be at every meeting. This is an elective thing. Obviously, you guys are all contributing based off of the time and resources that you have available. You're here because everybody in this group has already contributed to the Passage ecosystem in some very substantive way. You guys have been huge supporters of what we're doing on a bunch of different levels. There's nobody here who has not already added serious value to the community. And that's why, again, there's no obligation because you guys are already doing this of your own accord. And we just want to acknowledge that through your participation. But, the show will go on, and this is going to be based, we're going to be ad hoc, so we'll have these meetings regularly as you can jump in. But otherwise, we also have the offline communication where we'll just keep everybody in sync on what's moving forward.
I don't know if I could just chime in, but I'm personally very
Yes.
excited. This has been a great meeting. One thing I would say from an action item standpoint would be I've learned so much about things that are in your mind, Lex, in terms of like ideas, prioritization, like things that maybe are kind of developed but that need to get over the finish line. It'd be great to start mapping some of those things out. And this is why I'm a firm believer in what Akash does is like use a project board that's also in GitHub, because you can literally spec out
Yes.
each of these items that you have, and then
Like
folks
Kanban?
can go in there, see the exactly, just like Kanban, and then people can comment like, hey, I think this is more important than the other thing. Hey, I've already got a solution, and I've already got some testing for this, and so even today you've seen, you're starting to think about things, and people from the community are like, oh, we built that for 2 other projects, we could do the same thing here.
Yep.
So as we start to like spec out more ideas, I'm sure there'll be more people that will want to get involved, like, oh, this is easy for us to do, we already believe in your project, we would like to help. So I
Yep.
would just like urge you to continue to like get those things out, so that as many people can see them as possible, because people will come out of the woodwork, especially, and this is just my experience, doing the same kind of thing at Akash, and even prior to this, like more private sector stuff. Once you create a framework and like a product requirement or specs, there are people that are not going to come up and say like, hey, what are you working on? But they will look at a document and be like, oh, I want to get involved in this, and that's their barrier for
Yeah.
entry. So the more that we can
Great.
like make it easy for people to understand thought process, I think the further we'll go.
Yep, 100%. No, I love that, and that's fantastic. I think, again, as much as we can centralize this in the GitHub repository, and that be kind of the central, the what is the term? The what the that's where the knowledge is, the final arbiter of the
It's like a single pane of
source of
glass.
truth. Source of
Yeah.
truth. Is that the thing whatever. Yeah, that thing. That can be kind of the central area where people can go, yes, Primus, yes, source of truth. Or the what is going on, right? That can reflect the status, the opportunities to get involved, and where things are at. So I like that a lot.
I would also give 2 cents, like, just speaking for, and I think you said at the top of the call, the CloudMost team, I think one of the Maxes was here previously. They've done a great job with the indexer. They're very reliable, like from a team standpoint. And this is something that Cosmos is supposed to be very good at, right? Is like all these teams and individuals that can come together and collaborate. I would go to bat for the Cloudmost team and like the work that they do and like their attention to detail and the quality. So I just want to put that out there.
Heck yeah. Yep. I'm really glad to see Dapcraft in the chat as well. I know you guys are doing some really cool 3D stuff in the space, so excited to have you guys involved in whatever way we can. Beans. Okay. We've got our marching orders. We'll have next steps. We'll drop an announcement as we kind of have the special interest group channels set up, and you guys can jump into those. We will post resources. We'll have documentation for each of these things, requirements that will probably get documented under the appropriate category in the GitHub. But we'll link to that stuff in the updates as well. And then, yes, we'll also get back to you guys on ongoing meeting times. Again, we're available in the chat. We'll keep this moving forward, and I know I'm excited to keep going on things. Some fun news that's going live as we speak, or there will be some news dropping over the next 30 minutes here, probably. Basically, we have been collaborating with the Akash team on some really cool integrations. And you might notice that there's also a new pool live on Osmosis that is implicates some of the upcoming announcements for Akash and Passage. So, yeah, okay. So Brianna just dropped the post, but we'll also make a tweet so you guys can help us amplify what's going on in our integration with Akash. But really cool things happening on the Passage ecosystem. So glad to have all of you guys involved.
Hey. So this is Alex from Ancient Crypto. Thank you, Lex, for inviting us. We're very excited, and I just want to second what Taylor was saying before, that we're here because we believe in what you guys are doing. This is an awesome project, awesome product, and we definitely believe in you, what you guys are doing. So what I just want to say is just please don't hesitate in asking us for anything you guys need, anything you want to communicate. I already told you we have a great graphic design team, and if you need to have something quick, because we understand that you guys have so many things in your mind, so if you need anything, just please ping us in Telegram, and we will happily help to create some graphic pieces. I don't know, maybe infographics or maybe videos, whatever you guys need. So
Beautiful.
that's just what I want to say. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, super excited to have you guys involved, and looking forward to see how all of this connects. Excited to finally unlock more of the power of this community by just opening things up, and really also enabling some ownership across the board for this Passage infrastructure. Beautiful. Go team, go. Chop it up, and we'll have some updates for you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate all of your time and feedback, and really excited to be part of this.
Looking forward to helping. See y'all later.
Great.
Ciao.
Stay Dragon fam. Peace.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Thanks very much.